Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.
You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 18th of June. PM Modi wraps up productive Canada visit after G7 summit heads to Croatia. India maintains no US mediation in ceasefire with Pakistan. And Bangladesh court summons Sheikh Hasina to face trial. And now for all the details. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrapped up his visit to Canada after participating in the G7 summit, terming it productive and focused on key global challenges. He's now headed to Croatia, the last leg of his three-nation tour.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi departed for Croatia on Tuesday after concluding a significant leg of his three-nation tour in Canada. At the G7 summit in Canada, Modi took part in outreach sessions and held high-level bilateral meetings with several global leaders. In his meeting with Canadian PM Mark Carney, discussions centered around energy security, technological cooperation, and innovation. The meeting aimed to reset ties after they deteriorated over the past 2 years over the Khalistan issue. On the summit sidelines, Modi met leaders from France, South Africa, Brazil, Mexico, the UK, and Australia. Before the tour, PM Modi had said his mission was to thank allies for backing India on cross-border terrorism and to strengthen global cooperation on anti-terrorism efforts. Addressing the G7 outreach session on energy, Modi highlighted India's leadership in initiatives such as the International Solar Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and the Global Biofuels Alliance. The Prime Minister also spotlighted India's digital transformation, advocating a human-centric approach to technology, AI governance, and inclusive innovation. He further reiterated India's zero-tolerance policy on terrorism and thanked leaders for condemning the Pahalgam terror attack. Modi called for united global action and accountability for states supporting terrorism. India, the fifth largest economy in the world, has regularly been invited to the outreach session of the G7 summit in the past few years.
And now we will be able to, I think, get this relationship up and about. It's an important relationship. I don't remember figures offhand, but I think the Indian origin community there should be upwards of 1 million people. Our trade bilateral in goods alone should be about $8 or $9 billion. And apart from that, you know, Canada and India have had a traditional relationship which is based on certain shared values. Forget about what happened here, and, you know, I used a rather harsh term the other day when I was describing some of those protesters who draw not inspiration but even financial succor from one of our Western neighbors. So that is all right, and I used a harsh term. I called them Kirai ke Tattu, and I'm glad that, you know, apart from that show of protests, etc., they were either exhausted or didn't feel like showing up.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a telephone conversation with US President Donald Trump late on Tuesday, maintained that a ceasefire between India and Pakistan in May was achieved through talks between the two militaries and not US mediation. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said. The two leaders spoke over the phone as Trump left early from the G7 summit in Canada, which Modi attended as a guest. Trump last month said that the nuclear-armed South Asian nation neighbors agreed to a ceasefire after talks mediated by Washington, and that the hostilities ended after he urged the countries to focus on trade instead of war. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment about the Modi-Trump call. According to Reuters, Pakistan previously claimed that the ceasefire happened after its military returned a call the Indian military had initiated on 7th of May.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी। सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने की बात सीधे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच दोनों सेनाओं की एग्जिस्टिंग चैनल्स के माध्यम से हुई थी और पाकिस्तान के ही आग्रह पर हुई थी। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने जोर देकर कहा कि भारत ने न तो कभी मध्यस्थता स्वीकार की थी, न करता है और न ही कभी करेगा। इस विषय पर भारत में पूर्ण रूप से राजनीतिक एकमत है।
Moving on. Torrential rains have brought heavy floods in India's western Gujarat state, with submerged markets and residential areas on Tuesday. People were seen wading flooded roads after heavy rains triggered the overflowing of water bodies which swamped the Botad district. Authorities said nearly 24 people had been evacuated to a shelter from the low-lying area in the Kambhada village. India relies on rainfall to support its population, many of whom live off and rely on farming. However, excessive rain often causes floods and waterlogging, especially due to poor drainage systems.
लास्ट 24 आवर में 7.5 इंच बारिश हुई है। ये जो खामड़ा डैम है उसके जो नीचे एरिया है उसमें से अराउंड 40 लोगों को शिफ्ट किया गया है बाजू की जो पावन विद्यालय है उसके अंदर। इसके अलावा जो रानपुर तहसील है वहां से भी कुछ लोगों को शिफ्ट किया गया है। एज फार एज कैजुअलिटी इज कंसर्न तो कोई कैजुअलिटी जैसा है नहीं, और मोस्टली जो जियोग्राफी है जिस डिवीजन की, इस हिसाब से जो कॉजवे है तो उस कॉजवे के अंदर अभी तो पानी है।
And a group of 214 Pakistani students studying in medical and engineering institutions in Iran on Tuesday arrived at Pakistan's Taftan border, crossing from Tehran following Israeli airstrikes. Officials said the students were brought in the passenger coaches under tight security arrangements, and over 90 of them were expected to arrive in Gwadar by the end of the day. Separately, local officials reported that 155 Pakistani students had returned from Iran earlier on Sunday. Pakistan has closed its border crossings with Iran at Panjgur indefinitely due to escalating tensions, while Taftan remains open for repatriation.
मैं यहाँ जायदान यूनिवर्सिटी में मेडिकल के लिए आई थी MBBS करने, और अचानक से फिर इसराइल ने पहले फ़लस्तीन पे अटैक किया और उसके बाद इधर ईरान के इलाकों में सारी जगह पे अटैक करना शुरू कर दिया, जिसकी वजह से फिर हमारी पाकिस्तानी गवर्नमेंट ने चाहा कि हम लोग वापस आना चाहें, तो उन्होंने हमारे सारे इंतज़ामात किए ताकि हम अपने इलाकों में, अपनी कंट्री में हिफाजत के साथ पहुँच सकें।
Meanwhile, Commissioner of Quetta, Mohammad Hamza Shafqat, said 545 pilgrims and 207 students reached Quetta in Balochistan from the Taftan border, and the arrangements had been made to transport them to their hometowns. However, the Taftan border remains operational for repatriation and trade activity.
हम ईरान यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मेडिकल साइंसेज के हैं। हमारे बिल्कुल तकरीबन 1.5 किलोमीटर के डिस्टेंस पे जो है इनके जो है अपना मिलिट्री बेस, अपना मिलिट्री के जो बंदे हैं उनके रूम्स वगैरह हैं, घर वगैरह हैं, उन पे तकरीबन जुमे की रात को ही 3:30 बजे जो है अटैक हुआ है। उसमें इनके हाई लेवल के जो हैं तकरीबन काफ़ी सारे बंदे शहीद हुए हैं, जिसमें साइंटिस्ट भी शामिल हैं, जिसमें इनके पासदारान इनकलाब के टॉप लेवल के जो उनके लीडर थे वो भी शामिल हैं, और इनकी दूसरी जो सिपाह है उनके भी लीडर शामिल थे।
And the Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal has summoned former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and former Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan to appear before it on June 24th to face trial in a case over the July-August uprising. The tribunal also directed authorities to publish notices summoning Hasina and Khan. The chief prosecutor formally submitted the charges against Hasina, accusing her of atrocities during the Bangladesh uprising, the Dhaka Tribune informed. According to the case statement, nearly 1,500 people were killed during last year's anti-government movement. The charges stem from a wave of nationwide unrest that peaked in August 2024. Amid mounting demonstrations in August, Hasina reportedly fled to India. Following her departure, Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus took charge as chief advisor, heading an interim government tasked with restoring order and preparing the country for elections. The tribunal's move marks a dramatic escalation in Bangladesh's post-uprising political reckoning, with legal accountability now being pursued at the highest level. Moving on, Afghan women are significantly falling behind global standards for human development, according to a new report by the UN Women, an entity charged with working for gender equality and the empowerment of women. With a 76% disparity in health, education, financial inclusion, and decision-making, Afghanistan has the second widest gender gap in the world, revealed the Afghanistan Gender Index. According to the report, 78% of young Afghan women are not in education, employment, or training, 4 times the rate as compared to Afghan men. Following the bans on education for girls beyond 6th grade by the Taliban, the secondary school completion rate for girls will soon collapse to 0, the report states. No women currently hold the positions in the de facto cabinet or in local offices, a setback that impacts the ability of women to shape policies and laws affecting their lives, informed the UN report. Despite being all but erased from public and political life, Afghan women still continue to push for inclusive governance and find ways to raise their concerns with authorities at the national and subnational level. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.
Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.